The unseen weapon. They used to laugh at us. The Zentari, six-limbed, chitin-armored, and dripping with contempt, saw humanity as a joke. A short-lived, soft-bodied species that bled too easily and died too young. When the war began, they predicted our extinction in 3 planetary cycles. But they didn't account for the medics. Corpsman Elias Rowe sprinted through the mud-churned battlefield of Proxima B, red cross patch flapping on his shoulder. Plasma bolts shrieked past his head, sizzling into craters and corpses alike. He didn't look back. He never looked back. That was how you got killed. "Rowe!" came the panicked voice through comms. "Wolf's down. Chest shot. He's bleeding out." "I'm on him," Elias replied, already vaulting over a twisted exo-frame. His boots slammed into the muck next to the motionless body of Sergeant Wolf. The man's armor was scorched open, revealing a pulsing mess of ruined flesh and exposed bone. Elias dropped to one knee. His hands moved automatically. Trauma foam, injector, pulse check, stims. Wolf's eyes fluttered. "Stay with me, Sarge," Elias muttered. "You're not dying today." Over the ridge, 3 Zentari scouts watched in silence. They had orders to flank the human position, report back on weak points, and eliminate any survivors. Standard procedure. But then one of them hissed, mandibles clacking. "Look," it said in their tongue, pointing at Elias. "The Red Cross. The bag. A healer." The others froze. "No weapons," one said slowly, "but he moves like a warrior." Another added, "They say the ones with bags bring the dead back." The lead scout clicked into his comms. "Omega Protocol," he rasped. "Engagement aborted. Repeat. Omega. A human medic has been sighted." 5 minutes later, Elias watched the enemy retreat. He didn't understand it at first. One moment, they were under heavy fire. The next, the Zentari line had dissolved. No final push. No coordinated fallback. Just panic. "Command," he said over the radio. "Zentari forces pulling back. No visible cause." "Orders." "Stay alert, Rowe," came the reply. "Recon confirms your position as last seen with enemy contact." "You sure you didn't do something?" Elias glanced down at his medkit. Bloodied, worn, stuffed with tools no one outside of his unit could name. He gave a dry laugh. "Unless they're scared of gauze and adrenaline, no." But deep inside, he knew something had changed. 2 days later, at a Zentari command outpost deep in orbit, Supreme Strategist Galzuth reviewed the battle footage. "Pause," he said, pointing at the grainy clip of Elias hauling Wolf behind cover. The image froze on the medic's face, smeared with blood, teeth clenched in focus, sleeves rolled up to expose strong arms. His hands blurred as they worked, dragging life back from the abyss. "That is the one," said the scout commander, standing rigidly behind him. "He carries the cross." "A non-combatant," Galzuth said, voice like grinding stone. "No, strategist," the scout said firmly. "A field necromancer." The term was crude, borrowed from ancient legends, but it spread fast. To the Zentari, death was final. Their physiology didn't allow for revival. No soldier shot through the heart would ever rise again. But humans had medics who defied that truth. Soldiers with holes in their lungs, limbs torn away, plasma burns across their spines, and they came back. Because of people like Elias Rowe. Back at the Terran Forward Outpost, Elias cleaned his kit in silence. Around him, laughter echoed. A rare thing. "Hey, Corpsman," Private Leto called. "You see the new Zentari manual we captured?" Elias looked up. "They've added a new section," Leto grinned. Translated it says, "Immediate retreat if red-crossed human is present. Do not engage." Repeat, "Do not engage." Elias blinked. "You're kidding. They think you're some kind of warlock." He stared at the medkit. All it held were tools for stopping bleeding, restarting hearts, and defying odds. But maybe that was magic, to them. He zipped it shut, slung it over his shoulder. "You laugh now," he said quietly, "but if they're scared of this bag, I'll keep wearing it." Leto grinned. "Hell yeah, document lead the charge." Elias didn't smile. He just turned toward the triage tent. His job wasn't to lead. It was to make sure others could. But if the enemy chose to flee at the sight of a medic, so be it. Ghosts in the med bay. They never saw it coming, the first time a dead squad walked again. It happened on the frozen hellscape of Theta 9, during a routine Zentari sweep. A human recon team had been ambushed. 6 soldiers down in under 2 minutes, caught in a crossfire with no cover and no chance. By all Zentari calculations, they were done. Erased. Except one survived. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't armed. She was the medic. Her name was Ari Curry, Corpsman First Class, age 28, and fueled by adrenaline, trauma foam, and a fury that only comes from watching your people bleed. When the Zentari scout team circled back to confirm the kill, they expected bodies. Instead, they found movement. Human shadows stirring behind shattered rocks. One soldier coughing up blood, teeth gritted. Another, propped against a ridge, still holding his rifle. A third limping forward, wounded but walking. And in the center, Ari. Kneeling. Working. Her gloves soaked in someone else's life. The medkit sprawled open beside her like a field surgeon's altar. She didn't notice the scouts watching. Or maybe she didn't care. She was too busy pulling ghosts back from the edge. The Zentari didn't engage. They didn't even fire. They ran. Now, months later, that story had become a legend, told in whispers at war councils and caution briefings. The first recorded case of what Zentari commanders now called combat resurrection events. Ridiculous, Elias said, tossing the datapad aside. He was back in the outpost med bay, nursing a lukewarm protein pouch and reading intercepted Zentari intel. Event classification: Omega level anomaly. Reanimated human infantry suspected. Medics designated non-lethal combatants no longer. Flee on sight. They think we're necromancers now, Corpswoman June Reyes muttered, lying on the cot across from him, ankle wrapped from a shrapnel blast. Or miracle workers, Elias said dryly. June snorted. I put a sealant patch on Private Horner's kidney this morning. He pissed blood and screamed for 6 minutes. Real magical. Hey, Elias shrugged. He's still alive. June looked at him for a beat. Then she smiled. Not warmly, just with that tired, soldier's smirk. Yeah, he is. The truth was, human medics weren't supernatural. They were just relentlessly prepared. In the past decade, Earth had revolutionized battlefield medicine. Injectables that could restart a heart in 6 seconds. Synthetic blood plasma laced with nanites. Biofoam that hardened instantly over arterial wounds. Pain suppressors. Field stimulants. Emergency defibrillators that fit in a glove. And the most important weapon of all, stubbornness. Because human medics didn't stop. They didn't give up. Not when they were outgunned, outnumbered, or soaked in their own blood. If there was one breath left in a body, they would fight for it. And that terrified the Zentari more than any orbital cannon. Reyes sat up slowly, her face more serious now. You know what they really hate. Elias looked over. They don't get second chances, she said. If a Zentari takes a gut shot, he's done. Their organs liquefy. No recovery tech. No time. Elias nodded. Yeah, I've read the reports. So when they see us dragging someone off the ground and plugging them full of stims, to them, it's not healing. It's cheating death. Elias leaned back in his chair. We're not cheating. We're just not accepting the rules they play by. Reyes grinned again. Exactly. Outside, the outpost alarms sounded briefly, a drill, not an attack. Elias didn't flinch. His pulse barely ticked up. The war had normalized too much, too fast. He reached for his medkit, checked the inventory again. Gauze, sealant, pressure shots, combat-grade morphine. Nothing mythical. Just tools. But in the hands of a human. To the Zentari, this bag was a death omen. Somewhere across the stars, inside a Zentari command dome, General Vrex stood at a holotable with 6 others. All reports confirm increased use of combat medics. One of them hissed. They do not kill, but they unkill. Do we have equivalent countermeasures? No. Our physiology does not allow field revival. Then what do we do? A long pause. Then General Vreck spoke. We adapt our training. New directive. If a Red Cross human is seen in combat theater, immediate withdrawal is authorized. No engagement. No hesitation. He tapped the screen. It zoomed in on a blurry photo of Elias, crouched beside a bleeding soldier, eyes locked on his work. Let them be warriors, Vreck said. But if their healers can raise the fallen, then those are the ones we fear most. When medics lead the charge. The orders made Elias pause. He read them twice, then a third time. Corpsman Elias Rowe is to accompany Alpha 2 Tactical Unit during Operation Shattergate. Primary directive: maintain forward medical support and ensure mission continuity. Secondary directive: hold position with squad until extraction or death. It wasn't the wording that bothered him. It was the line that followed. Position: frontline entry. Since when do medics lead the charge? He muttered. Across the staging area, soldiers prepped for combat. Ammo belts loaded, exosuits locked, weapons calibrated. Elias stood among them, unarmed except for the weighted medkit strapped across his chest. Captain Navarro caught his eye and gave a short nod. You're not there to fight, Rowe. You're there to keep my people fighting. Elias strapped on his gloves. So, I'm a walking life support system now. Navarro smiled grimly. You're the difference between victory and a pile of dog tags. Tarsus Prime was a dead moon, but the Zentari wanted it for its subterranean relay towers. If they held it, they'd cut off Terran fleet communications across the sector. Operation Shattergate aimed to stop that. Infiltrate. Disable. Survive. The landing was chaos. Plasma fire streaked through the dust-filled air as Alpha 2 scattered behind cover. The enemy was dug in, more than recon had shown. Already, the first casualty hit the dirt. Private Koji, shot through the leg and bleeding out fast. Elias didn't hesitate. He sprinted from the dropship, low and fast, ignoring the calls to stay back. Koji's eyes were wide with shock, hands clawing at his thigh. Elias dropped beside him, tore open the wound, and slammed a hemostatic patch into the artery. Painkillers. Coag foam. Stabilizers. 17 seconds flat. Can you hold a rifle? Elias barked. Koji blinked, then nodded. Shaking. Then get back up. Koji rose. So did morale. Overhead, the Zentari watched from thermal drones. They saw something that didn't make sense, a human shot clean through, then rising again, still bleeding, but fighting. The drones tracked Elias, kneeling beside one, running to another. 3 wounded soldiers in 4 minutes brought back to full function. It wasn't just triage, it was resurrection in motion. Zentari Command issued a field update mid-battle. Target priority: red-crossed human. Avoid contact. Evade at all cost. If sighted, initiate fallback maneuvers. Too late. By the second hour, Elias was soaked in blood, not all of it human. He'd been hit by shrapnel twice, burned once, and still hadn't stopped moving. A round took down Sergeant Diaz near the relay door. Elias reached her within seconds, drove a stim injector into her chest, and patched the neck wound with surgical glue. She gasped, grabbed her rifle, and rolled back into cover. Navarro shouted over the comms, "Rowe, you're a damn war engine." Elias didn't respond. He was already crawling to the next body. Later, the Zentari survivors would describe the fight not in terms of weapons or strategy, but fear. They spoke of one human with no gun. A figure who ran through fire, dragging the dying to their feet like ghosts called from beyond. They called him Bloodwalker. They said to look upon him was to know despair. Because if the humans refused to die, then how could the Zentari ever win? The mission was a success. The relay towers were destroyed. Alpha 2 suffered 12 casualties, but 0 deaths. Elias sat on the edge of the evac shuttle, silent, hands shaking, gloves slick with grime and plasma ash. Captain Navarro sat beside him. "You did good, Corpsman," he said. "I didn't kill anyone," Elias murmured. "But they ran from me anyway." Navarro looked at him. "You didn't have to kill them. You broke something deeper." "What?" "Their will." Elias looked at his medkit. It was dented, scorched, nearly empty. But it had done its job. Back at Zentari High Command, a final declaration was drafted. Human medics are not to be engaged under any circumstances. Identification of Red Cross insignia is grounds for immediate retreat. Tactical note: avoid the wounded if a human healer is present. They may not stay dead. The document was stamped, sealed, and distributed across every Zentari battlefront. The policy had a new name: the Bloodwalker Protocol. The last enemy to fall. They sent assassins for him. Elias Rowe didn't carry a rifle, didn't throw grenades, didn't bark orders into the fray. He carried lives. Saved them. Restored them. And that made him more dangerous than any general. The Zentari, humiliated after Tarsus Prime, had learned one thing: as long as the humans had their medics, the war couldn't be won. So they changed their strategy. They would kill the heart of the legend. And legends bled like anyone else. It happened on Caldera 6, in a jungle that breathed poison and buzzed with death. Elias moved between squads, tending to burns and broken limbs, unaware that two cloaked Zentari infiltrators stalked him from the ridgeline. They watched him revive a soldier whose spine had been fractured by an explosion. They saw the way his hands moved, practiced, fearless. How he whispered to the dying like they were already halfway home. They didn't understand the words. But they saw what came next: the soldier rising, staggering, returning to the line. That was enough. One infiltrator raised his long blade, poison-tipped. The other readied a sonic bolt, tuned to rupture lungs at close range. But they waited too long. A shot rang out from the trees. One fell instantly, head evaporated in red mist. The second turned, too slow. June Reyes, still limping from a half-healed leg wound, emerged from cover with a stolen Zentari rifle in her arms. "Try touching our medic again," she muttered. "See what happens." She lowered the barrel and glanced at Elias, who had barely looked up. "You knew, didn't you?" she said. He nodded once. "I heard them breathing." June holstered the rifle. "Next time, yell." "No time," Elias said, already sealing another soldier's punctured lung. He was dying. The attempted assassination only made the legend stronger. Across the stars, it spread faster than bullets. Zentari units abandoned firebases if they even suspected a medic was near. One garrison surrendered outright when drones picked up Red Cross insignias on a nearby ridge. Command tried to deny it, of course. But the soldiers in the trenches knew better. Elias Rowe had become a myth. The final turning point came at the Battle of Echo Rift. The Zentari launched their largest offensive in a decade: 5 legions, orbital support, and death crawlers bred for siege. But the humans didn't break. Because wherever the line began to falter, a medic appeared. Not just Elias. There were others now. Reyes, Curry, Salim, Ortega. Trained under fire, tempered by loss, carrying the will to fight etched into their bones. The Zentari struck with overwhelming force. The medics answered with something stronger: hope. They patched arteries mid-firefight, restored shattered limbs, refused to let anyone stay down. And when Elias was seen dragging a soldier through flame, cloak half-burned, eyes wild, the Zentari line faltered. Then cracked. Then fled. Later, analysts tried to explain it with graphs, morale indexes, and psychological fatigue metrics. But to the soldiers, it was simple. We knew if we fell, someone would bring us back. After the war, Elias was offered medals, statues, command. He refused them all. He returned to Earth, to a quiet coastal town, and ran a clinic where no one called him Bloodwalker anymore. Just Doc Rowe. He didn't talk much about the war. But his patients noticed something. He never gave up on a case. Not once. Even when others did. And far beyond Earth, in what remained of the Zentari fleet, children were raised on whispered warnings. If you see a human with the Red Cross, run.